Good morning. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm about to make a dairy-free, sugar-free, low-fat ice cream to share with you. And I'm going to make it 3 different ways so that even if you don't have an ice cream maker, you can make this ice cream. The 3 different ways that I'm going to make the recipe are as ice cubes blended up in a blender. If you don't have an ice cream maker, that will work for you. If you do have an ice cream maker, one of those that will like churn, that you keep in your freezer and then you pour the liquid into the frozen container and then you churn it, I'm going to show you that way. And I'm going to show you in the creamy. I have a creamy machine over there. So that's my favorite way to make it. And that's how I make it now, but I wanted to show you all 3 ways because the original recipe is written so that you could do it as ice cubes and then blend them to make your ice cream. That's my least favorite way to make it. I think I may have tried that one time, but I didn't like it, but I'll show it to you so you know how to do it. And then after that, I always made it in my little Cuisinart ice cream maker. So that's the second way I'll show you. And then I will show you finally how to do it in the creamy, my absolute favorite way to have it, because then it's really creamy ice cream. It has a great mouthfeel to it. Oh, and then the bonus is in the description box, there's going to be 31 different ways to change up, to dress up this ice cream mixture, so that kind of like Baskin Robbins, you can 31 different ways. That will be in the description box. I am interrupting my video and inserting this little clip from my tread desk because of a sort of a public service announcement. I want to treat the viewer like I would want to be treated if I were on the other end of this. So I'm giving you a heads up that after this little insert, I go off on a rabbit trail and I veer from just giving you the 3 ways of making tummy tucking ice cream, and I do come back to it. I do get to giving you the 3 ways to make tummy tucking ice cream, but to spare you the rabbit trail that I took, this is your fair warning. If you don't want to go on that rabbit trail with me, then fast forward ahead in the video until you come to the part where you can see the fireplace in the background of my video. And then I start with the recipes, and from there on out I stick to the program and I give you tummy tucking ice cream made as ice cubes in the blender, tummy tucking ice cream made as soft serve in the Cuisinart ice cream frozen yogurt maker, and tummy tucking ice cream made with the Ninja Creamy. So I apologize ahead of time for the rabbit trail that I took, but this is hopefully to make up for that, to let you know you might want to scrub through and get to the part where you see the fireplace in the background and ingredients laid out on the counter. Sorry about that. I've been making this healthy little dessert for myself since 2013 when I discovered Trim Healthy Mama. But this dessert can be used by anyone on any dietary style. It's great for diabetics, and it's great for many different diets, or no diet at all. It's just a healthy ice cream to have that is not going to raise your blood sugar and put fat on your body, and add unnecessary calories to your life at the end of your day. I'm not a calorie counter, but I'm aware that calories count to people. This recipe comes from the original self-published Trim Healthy Mama that Pearl and Serene published themselves, And this big book, 600 plus pages, is both the plan on how Trim Healthy Mama works, and it is the recipe, a whole bunch of recipes in here. They've since published more cookbooks, but I began with this original one, and this is where the recipe comes from. It's called Tummy Tucking Ice Cream, and it is on pages 368 and 369, and I can share it with you because in 2020, I saw it published on their Trim Healthy Mama Facebook fan page, so they made the recipe public. And the one reason this recipe is a favorite of mine is because it's got a fun name, Tummy Tucking Ice Cream, but it's also a fuel pull recipe. And in Trim Healthy Mama terms, that means that it is both low in carbs and low in fats, so that it doesn't supply any fuel or energy sources to your body. I use both fuel and energy source as the same term because in addition to using Trim Healthy Mama as part of my dietary style, in 2018, I began using Marty Kendall's teaching of optimizingnutrition.com when I found a blog post of his called How to Use a Glucose Meter as Your Fuel Gauge. And I was struggling with menopausal weight gain for over 2 years. The scale just kept ticking upward, even though I was fully on plan with Trim Healthy Mama, and I was applying some of the stricter rules of it. And I had given up my freestyling of just being able to, eat whatever I wanted in terms of whether I wanted to eat carbs, which is an E-meal in Trim Healthy Mama terms, or I wanted to eat fats with my meal, which is an S-meal in Trim Healthy Mama terms. E-meals with carbs are low fat, and S-meals with fats are low carb. So I was going back and forth between low carb and low fat living and enjoying that, and not paying too much attention to fuel pull things. But with that menopausal weight gain, I definitely started paying attention to fuel pull items. And now I have a whole menu resource that I can share with you in the description box of this video that is all fuel pull items. And I can share all those recipes with you because I chose public links, recipes that are not in limited. You won't have to have a cookbook to find them. You can find them all online. They're all linked on the Google Doc sheet that I will link in this description box. I'm also going to link information where you can find Marty's blog post, How to Use a Glucose Meter as Your Fuel Gauge, and I'll have all kinds of links in this video as I go along because I like to point people to the resources that have helped me. When I found Trim Healthy Mama in 2013, it made it possible for me to stop 17 years of low carb living, for which I'm very grateful. I tried to eat low carb all the time, but I had lots of cave-ins to my cravings, to my carbohydrate cravings. And I didn't realize that my body really needed those carbs. And I caved into unhealthy carbs. Then when I discovered Trim Healthy Mama in 2013, I learned to focus on healthy carbs, and then all those junk food cravings that I dabbled with for 17 years finally were not plaguing me anymore. So eating healthy carbs kept a lot of the food chatter out of my head. And then of course, I knew how to live low carb because I'd done it for 17 years. So adopting Trim Healthy Mama living was really easy for me. But then in 2016, with menopause becoming an issue and causing weight gain because of the hormonal changes. It's just normal. The weight just crept up for 2 years until 2018 when I discovered Marty's blog post about how to use a glucose meter as your fuel gauge. I'll put up an image of what that article looks like, the cover page of that article, so you'll know you found the right one. Or if you don't use the link in the box to take you to it, you can just find it on your own, search for it on your own, and know that you found the right one. So let me get that image and put that up here. All right, now I have an image up of Marty's most recent blog post article that he did as a pictorial guide to make it a little easier to understand the process of using your glucose meter as a way to time when your body really needs to have fuel or not. Because what I learned from following Marty's teaching was the 3 to 4 hour fueling that I had been doing since 2013 because of Trim Healthy Mama was no longer serving me now that my hormones had changed and I was in a state of menopause or postmenopausal. So I needed to be, I didn't need to fuel every 3 to 4 hours. I needed to pay attention to what my glucose told me when I needed to fuel, which is a little ironic because in this original book, it's, and the other reprinted plan book and stuff, they talk about, the Trim Healthy Mama principles talk about being kind to our glucose and not having high glucose values. Well, how do you know whether you have a high glucose value or not if you don't test? And you can test with a simple glucose meter. I started by going to Walmart for $20 and getting a glucose meter kit that had everything I needed to test with. For $20, I had the meter, I had test strips, I had a lancing device, I had lancets, I had it all. I could test myself for 50 times for 20 bucks. And I'll have more information in the description box about a link to show you exactly where to look in Walmart for the Rely On Premier $20 glucose kit. And I will also post information about a Dario glucose testing meter where you can get unlimited test strips for a year for a subscription of $200, but you got to use my link if you're going to actually get that $200 deal. And you got to be careful because after you do it, they put up another screen that makes you think you've got to spend another $40 to get the unlimited test strips. You don't. Once you've used the link and you've signed up, you've got the deal. $200 a year with a test kit, a glucose meter. Actually, my meter's sitting right here. Let me show you. This video is going to be long, I'm sorry. This is my Dario meter, and it has everything I need to test my glucose. You know what? I will show you on this video what it looks like, how I test my glucose and I test my ketones. Not something Marty teaches in his stuff. He doesn't want to make things complicated for people. And as a matter of fact, that's probably why Trim Healthy Mama doesn't encourage people to go out and get a glucose meter. They don't want to complicate things for people. But how do you know what your glucose is if you don't test? And I test. Okay, so I'm going to angle the camera down so you can see the testing process. This is my kit of stuff that I carry around, and here's my Dario. I'm going to pull out the meter and put it in the end of my phone, and I'm going to take out 5 test strips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I have unlimited test strips and I use them. All right, and before I stick that in there, I'm also going to get out a ketone test strip. This is the expensive part of testing, are the ketone test strips. I have a Keto Coach meter. The company now is called BioCoach. All right, so that's ready. This is ready. And I am going to pull back the caulking device, and I'm going to prick my finger at the side of my finger, and I'm going to pull up a drop of blood. And the first thing I'm going to do is test the ketones, and then I'll put this to the end of the test strip, the pipette end, so it can suck up. And I'm also going to immediately drop another drop of blood. All right, 89 and 9, 0.9. Okay, I'm going to check that in, put that here, and then use another test strip and pull up another drop of blood. Let's just hold all of these in my hand. 84. So that was a 5-point difference, and that's why I test more than once. I try to make sure that I have numbers that agree with each other, no more than 3 digits apart when I decide which number I'm checking. That says 92. Okay, a couple more. And then I'll look at all 5 numbers and decide which one I think is the most likely number. And that's at 84. One more here. And I'm just gonna lift that off. And this says 80. All right, let's look at all 5 numbers together from the log book. 80, 84, 92, 84, 89. I'm gonna go with the 84 because I got 2 84s. And then the next thing I do is I calculate my insulin ratio from the 2 numbers. So the 84 divided by 0.9 gives me an insulin ratio of 93, and I'll explain that. I'm putting another graphic up on the screen now that shows where I got this idea of the insulin ratio from Dr. Annette Bosworth after I read her book about her mother's cancer experience, and Dr. Annette Bosworth, who is an internist helping her mother with her cancer situation. And Dr. Bos created an easier way to figure out a glucose ketone index, which is something that is tied to Dr. Thomas Seyfried that Dr. Bos learned from about the insulin ratios. She just recalculated the glucose ketone index in a simpler way to cut out a math step, which works really well in my brain, cutting out math steps. So I use the Dr. Bos ratio, and I pay attention to whether I have high insulin or a healthy insulin, and that's why I take my ketones. I'm not chasing ketones. That's one of Marty's phrases is, he's concerned about people chasing ketones. I don't do that. I don't use exogenous ketones. I am measuring the ketones that my body is burning. I'm not putting in extra fat, thinking that I can raise my ketone level. Actually, I pay close attention to the fat I consume because I know it's an energy source. Yes, by golly, I am finally getting to the recipe. So these are the things that I'm going to use for it. I'm going to put all this stuff in my blender, and I'll just walk you through the recipe. So we need, I don't know if you can see here, but I'm working both off my stored recipe on Plan to Eat, which I will link the recipe, the Facebook recipe in the description box, but I'm working off from it in Plan to Eat because that's where I store my recipes. and out of the original cookbook, because there's slight differences in what they published on the Facebook page versus what's in the original recipe in the book. Okay, so we need a cup of almond milk, or whatever milk alternative you want that doesn't have a bunch of carbs in it. It's low sugar, so this is unsweetened almond milk, organic, that I got from Trader Joe's. And 2 to 3 teaspoons of one of their sweeteners called THM Sweet Blend, but you can, or 2 to 3 dongs of stevia. You could use whatever on-plan sweetener you want to use. I'm going to use stevia. I keep my stevia in one of these little squat canning jars, and I have both the teeny tiny donk spoon, which is 1/32 of a teaspoon, and I have 1/8 of a teaspoon in here. So I know that 3 of the donk spoons are 1/8 of a teaspoon, because I tested it, measured it out before. So I'm going to use that. And then a teaspoon of vanilla. Thank you, Laura Dean, for my vanilla jug. I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to put a little bit in. Wipe off my fingers. And then it says a pinch of salt. So that would be my pinch of salt. And a 1/4 of a teaspoon of glucomannan, which is a root, a powder of a root that's a thickener. So I'm going to put that in. Or you could use the same amount of xanthan gum. Now I'm actually going to use both. So I'm going to use, and this is 1/8 of a teaspoon, so I'll be using 2 of these. I know that xanthan gum is used in making ice creams, as well as, well, glucomannan is not a normal ice cream ingredient. And then that's actually the end of the original recipe that's in this cookbook. I'll just stick that up. But the Facebook recipe that I have here on Plan to Eat, I'll click on the Facebook page. The Facebook recipe, it goes on to say you could, they changed it for some reason, to either add like a teaspoon of heavy cream or tahini or peanut butter, and if you wanted it to have more fat in it, more creaminess or whatever, you could use 2 to 3 teaspoons of those things. I'm going to just leave them all off and leave this as a fuel pull. It also has an optional 1/4 scoop of pristine whey powder. I, instead of using that, am going to use a whole scoop of collagen. That'll give it some extra protein, and I'm all about extra protein. So those are the ingredients that go into it, and now I'm just going to pop it on the Vitamix. Okay, pull that out, put that on, and turn this on for a minute. Sorry about the noise. What I want to do is make sure that the glucomannan isn't going to be a ball of snot. That's it. Okay. Probably didn't have to blend it as long, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to have a ball of snot from the glucomannan, because once that hits the liquid, it changes everything. Now we just pour the mixture into an ice cube tray. I may need to get my little spatula just a second here. Okay. So let's see if we can get this to come out. It's already thickened up a little bit. Whoops. Okay, and then I'll spread it out evenly amongst each of the little cube chambers. And we'll stick it in the freezer. And the next step will be, I'll bring it out and I'll show you in the blender, it blended up. So I'm going to just even this out through the cubes here, so that it's going to freeze up into ice cubes that will get blended up. All right, we're almost done. Stick this in the freezer. Just pop this on. Stick it in the freezer with my other ice cubes. Once your tummy tucking ice cream mixture has frozen solid as cubes, then it's time to be able to take it out of the ice cube tray and blend it up in a high-speed blender. And I have a Vitamix. In the book they mention, I think, a Blend Tech or something. But what I'm going to do is take this is all frozen solid, I'm going to flip it over and use the top of my ice cube container as my tray for holding the cubes, and see if I can pop these out. And I can't. So I'm going to run it under water. Yeah, they're not going to pop out. So I'm going to run it under water. I put the lid securely back on so that it will be my catcher. And I've got the water on hot. I'm just going to run it under a couple times. Tap to try to feel if this loosens or not. When I feel it loosen a little bit, I can hear them shaking out. Okay, and I don't want to over melt them, so I'll stop here at this point and get them out onto the lid. Okay, I heard them. All right, everybody let go except, whoops. Well, we'll just let that one go. Okay. I've got two that are a little stubborn here. All right, they came out. So now over to the blender. I'll pull the blender out so that I can work here with it. Let's stick it up on top and put these down in. And then it says to blend them up so they're like snow, basically. And I have a damper here if I need to use it. So let's turn this on and see how it goes. Okay, I'm going to use the tamper. Snow-like consistency, it looks like. And keep in mind, I did say at the beginning of this video that this is my least favorite way to make the ice cream. Show you. That's what it looks like inside. It's not creamy, but I think I can go ahead and scoop it out. I don't want to add any more liquid to it. What I'm inclined to do is let it just be as it is, completely a fuel pull with nothing else added to it, and put the chocolate syrup over it. So I'm going to get it into a bowl now. I sense if I had blended it much more, it would turn more into just a shake kind of consistency. And I'm going more for, you know, a frozen treat, ice cream kind of consistency. I'm sure that Serene and Pearl have worked with it enough to get it where they like it, but I'm not willing to mess with it all that much because this isn't my preferred way to make it. If I had to choose something that was not the Ninja Creamy, then it would be to make the liquid like I did with the Cuisinart, freezing it up in the Cuisinart. And then once it were in the soft serve state, scooping it into the bowl and sticking it in the freezer for another hour or two before we were going to eat it. So it froze up even more, maybe even 3 hours ahead of when I wanted to serve dessert. And I think that would be my ideal if I didn't have the Ninja Creamy. So let's show you this consistency up close. So we've got this, and it's a cross between being a little snowy and starting to hold together more as a soft serve item. And now I can make it I can dress it up more with the chocolate sauce. Let me get some of that out, and a spoon. This is the handy chocolate sauce that was also shared on the Facebook fan page for the Trim Healthy Mamas. And I will link the recipe to this. I just label it chocolate sauce, but the proper name is handy chocolate sauce. And it also is a fuel pull. It's just water, cocoa powder, sweetener, and that's it. You cook it down together. I used allulose and came out with a really great result of the chocolate sauce. Now, before I put chocolate sauce over it, I'm going to shape it up a little bit with a spoon. Kind of pretty it up because I like pretty food. I eat with my eyes first. So, sort of mound up my ice cream, my frozen treat. Now I could set that in the fridge and let it firm up more, but I'm just going to do this for demonstration purposes so you can see. And then put some handy chocolate sauce over the top. Oh, KJ York came up with a caramel syrup that I believe was a fuel pull. Maybe I'll go looking for that and like that too. Could you imagine being able to have a completely fuel pull dessert with chocolate and caramel and the tummy tucking ice cream? That could be yummy. So there is the tummy tucking ice cream done in a blender as ice cubes. I just thought to add some information on this handy chocolate syrup that's a fuel pull. This stuff lasts a long time in the refrigerator. I made this batch back at the end of March when I did a free week of group coaching with KJ York. And I can't remember what was on her menu plan that caused me to make this, but I made this batch, and I think I may have made a double batch. I can't remember, but this has lasted since the end of March, and today is June 2nd that I'm making this video. So, and it does not crystallize with the allulose. Now for the next version that's done in the Cuisinart ice cream maker that churns around and around. I know from experience that single batch that's made in the ice cube tray is not going to really work very well in the Cuisinart ice cream maker. So now I'm going to do 4 batches. So that means everything's going to be multiplied by 4. I'll need 4 cups of the almond milk. And thankfully, I have another container right here. Let's just give it a shake. Okay. So, first cup here. 1. Splashy. 2. 3. 4. Okay, there's that. That would be then maybe 4 teaspoons, because it was a teaspoon of vanilla. So 1, 2, 3, 4. My best guess. Come on up here. Why am I having trouble? Well, we'll get to that later. And we'll need 4/8 of a teaspoon here for these. This is equivalent to the 3 donks of stevia. If I were making this for the first time, I would taste that, and I'll show you that in a minute. So we're going to do 4 dashes. 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't look like enough. Okay. Salt. And then I'm going to put in the optional protein addition to it. So that's 4 scoops of this collagen. And then I'm using 4/4 teaspoons. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the glucomannan. Glucky is the nickname of it. And then I have a whole, well, this is a 1/2 teaspoon, so I can use 2 of these. 1, 2. Okay. So everything's in here, and then I'll blend that up, but I won't make you sit through that on the video. This is just a little voice of experience working with alternative sweeteners. Whenever you're working with alternative sweeteners, you don't commit until you've tasted it. Like you don't put the batter in to bake until you've tasted it. And I know that this is going to be sweet enough for me because of experience. I've made this enough, but I want to show you. This is what you would do, or with a spoon, but I usually take a straw when I'm working with a blender. And I just suck up a little bit in the straw. I don't want to lose all that. To taste it, making sure that it's sweet enough for my taste, because it would be disappointing to just make it all, prepare it all, and you sit down to eat it and it's not what I expected. Because this was blended up, the Vitamix tends to warm things up a little bit when it's blended, and I know also from experience I'm going to get the best results if this is chilled before I put it into the Cuisinart thing to mix it. You put a warm ingredient in the cold Cuisinart, you're defeating some of the purpose. So you want to have a chilled product liquid to put in to freeze in your Cuisinart. So I'm going to stick this in the fridge and let it chill a little bit. All right, the mixture is chilled and it's ready for me to go ahead and put it in the frozen container, which I will pull out in a minute, and then I'll transfer the mixture into the frozen container and put it on here. So that's the next step. Okay, here it is, chilled, and I'm just going to transfer it from in the blender to the ice cream maker. Okay, and then this frozen chamber rests on here. And And then this goes down inside, like so. And then this walks on, like that. We turn it on. And now it just has to work until it is frozen. All right, this has run for pretty much half an hour, and I'm ready to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to bring the camera up to it and let you look down in. So it's still turning away, and it's going to be a soft serve. Now I'm going to stop it and take it out of the container. Peaceful quiet. Sometimes I have put this thing in the laundry room and shut the door because I didn't want it making all that noise, which is an advantage to use the Ninja Creamy, which is, while it's noisier, it's short-lived. Okay, so I'm going to pull out the paddle part. You'll see that I've got a soft serve ice cream now. So I'm just going to try to get as much as I can off the paddle. And I have a plate here to sit this down on. Okay, so that is that. And I think I'll just use a larger spoon here. What have I got? This, to scoop up some to serve. You can see that. Now this was 4 batches, but if I were serving a few people, it would end up probably being 3. Well, I don't know, maybe I probably could split it into 4, but, so there's that. Give him that, and then I'll put the other bowl in the freezer. Now if I put this in if I put this other bowl, I've got these 2 bowls now. If I put one of them in the freezer and let it freeze hard, it's going to freeze solid, and then if I wanted to eat it, I have to let it sit out and really get softened. But I am going to put this actually in a Ninja Creamy container and let it melt, and then I will be able to blend it up in the Ninja Creamy. So that's one little trick I decided to do with this, because I wanted to make the video and show you how it looks to make it in the Cuisinart, but I really like it best mixed up in the Ninja Creamy. So let me set one bowl aside. I'll give Steve this one and readjust the camera so you can see the sauces I've got. I'm going to lower the camera a little bit. All right, now I offered him chocolate sauce and I offered him strawberry sauce. I'll show you the chocolate sauce. This recipe will be linked in the description box. This is the handy chocolate sauce, and it makes a lovely chocolate sauce. But he doesn't want chocolate. He wanted the strawberry sauce, and this is based off the idea of the recipe Slim Belly Jelly. So I'm going to put this over his and take this to him and serve him. So there's that now. All right, last but not least, the greatest is the ice cream done, the tummy tucking ice cream done in the Ninja Creamy. So, like before, I'm going to end up making a quad batch of the tummy tucking ice cream. Bring that down here for me. I'll bring it over here. Okay, so I'm going to do this ×4 because I know that it will fill up these 2 containers perfectly. So I need 4 cups of almond milk. Each batch of Tummy Tucking ice cream, personal single serve, is a cup of almond milk or any nut milk you want to use, unsweetened nut milk. So I have another container. Thankfully I had enough almond milk on hand to do all this today. So there's 2. And 3. And 4, with some left over for another meal. That goes in the trash. This goes in the fridge. And then I'm going to put in a teaspoon of vanilla for each batch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's that. And then 4 dashes of salt. Okay. I left the dashes longer this time, so I didn't feel I had to do extra. And 4 times of the 3 donks of stevia, and a donk, the 3 donks measure out to 1/8 of a teaspoon. So I'm just going to do that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I will put in a scoop of collagen for each batch for a little extra protein. I will link in the description box the big deal about protein. 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's that. I have other ice creams that I can make that are protein sparing modified fast ice creams, but this is a tummy tucking ice cream, so it is, I wanted to share this with everybody. And then we are going to do this is a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm going to do it 4 times. 2, 3, 4 of glucomannan, just a natural root thickener, and the same amount of, this is a 1/2 teaspoon, the same amount of xanthan gum, but so it ends up being a teaspoon. My measure is a 1/2 teaspoon, so I only needed to do 2 of those. Everything is in, I just need to blend it. Okay, ready to blend. Turn it on. Just wanted to give that glucomannan a chance to blend all the way. Now I'm going to fill the 2 Ninja creamy containers. They're specific containers because they have these nubs on the bottom that are grabbed, that kind of ratchet things around. I'm not going to explain that right now. I will link a review video of the Ninja Creamy. So you have to be careful not to fill it above the fill line. So it's right to the fill line on one of them here. And that one. Okay, so now they just get covered up, and these have to go in the freezer and freeze solid overnight. But like any good cooking show, I have one ready that is frozen. So that's up next. This is the frozen one that I took out of the freezer. It's been sitting out for maybe 10 minutes or so, which is not a bad idea to let us, have a little time out, but it's definitely frozen solid. And it developed a little hump here, but it is going to go into the Ninja Creamy. I'm gonna release the side thing here so that I can put this down and open. You know what? I think you can see. Okay. I lowered it and got it out. And see these things here? These are what the nubs on the bottom of the containers have to lock into. So this sets in here and the nubs lock into here. And then when this, basically this is just a giant drill press. That's what my husband calls it, a drill press. The lid sits down on it. Oh, there's a blade in here that's going to be turning around and blending this up. So it sits on here, locks on, clicks on, sits in here, and it's locked on, and you turn it, and you turn it on, and it's ready to go. And it's loud. I won't, I'm not going to run the video the whole time because of how loud it is. So I will turn the video off after I get it started running. And oh, I'm going to do it on the light ice cream setting because it doesn't have as much fat in it. Well, it has no fat in it, which means that it's going to be more solid than an ice cream with fat in it, and the machine's going to have to work harder. So the work harder setting is the light ice cream setting. Here we go. I push that. All right, it's finished. I timed it and it took 2 minutes and 30 seconds to run through for the drill press to go down through and back up again. And now we're going to open it up and look at it. Okay, I'm going to open this. And I should have a spoon here. Okay. So you can see this ice cream. And I am going to scoop this up with an ice cream scoop and show you it served up in a bowl. So just lift this up out of that. And this is a Good Cook scoop that I like to use. And this scoops up very nicely. Just getting perfectly shaped ball here if I can, or pretty perfectly shaped ball. I could respin this again if I wanted to smooth it out some more, but this is good enough for me. Let's use a spoon to try to encourage that out. Okay, one more good scoop here. Let's see if it will release. Okay, and now just set that aside. And now for some chocolate sauce to go over the top. There we go. Why not some more? Okay. So there you have it. Some tummy tucking ice cream. In the description box of this video, there will be 31 different ways that you can dress up a bowl of tummy tucking fuel pull ice cream.